Yeah.
All right. So if we're going to find the absolute relative,
Bye, Ruth.
I'm sorry, absolute maximum and minimum,
You're welcome.
we need to take the first derivative. And to take the first derivative of this, we're going to have to use the chain rule. So we got an inside function, x divided by 6, and an outside function, which is sine. So we get to take the derivative of the outside function, which is cosine, and then take the derivative of the inside function, which is 1/6. And then we need to find whether this is equal to 0, because that's the only place that I can have a relative maximum or minimum. So I'm going to substitute. I'm going to set that equal to 0.
Okay. Divided by 1/6.
Multiply both sides by 6. 0 times 6 is 0.
When does the cosine of x over 6?
So I got to be able to solve when does the cosine of an angle equal 0. So I need to think about my unit circle here. You guys will like this. Check this out. This is calc. We're trying to figure out where the cosine is equal to 0.
It's at pi over 2.
Pi over 2.
And 3 pi over 2.
And 3 pi over 2. Now, the reason that I'm only choosing those two is because I'm on the interval 0 to 2 pi, so I don't have to worry about negative pi over 2 or 5 pi over 2 or any of those. So I know that the relative max and min are going to happen at these two values.
Oh, that's all. Oh.
Well, actually, that's not true. X divided by 6 is equal to pi over 2 or 3 pi over 2 because I need this angle to be 3 pi over 2 or 3 pi over 2.
Yeah.
So I need to solve this equation. So if I solve this equation by multiplying this side by 6, I get a little bit of a problem.
So 3 pi.
3 pi, and then this would be 9 pi, and then the next one would be 6 more than that would be 15 pi.
Okay.
But that's not in your.
Yeah, so none of these are in our interval.
So there's no relative extrema at 0.
So on this interval 0 to 2 pi, I don't have any relative extrema. So how am I going to find what the absolute max and min are if I don't know, if it doesn't have anywhere that it can
You
be?
gotta check the end.
Yeah, so we're going to check the endpoints. So I'm going to substitute in a 0. Sine of 0 divided by 6 is sine of 0, which is 0. So I have 0.00, and then when I substitute in 2 pi divided by 6 is pi over 3, and sine of pi over 3
Square root of 3 over 2.
3 over 2. So because I don't have any relative min or max on my interval, I know that this is the absolute minimum, and I know that this is the absolute maximum.
How do you know that's the absolute minimum?
Because of the 2 points that I tried, this one is smaller,
Okay.
and this one is larger.
So that's the max. That's the min.
Yeah.
So if you were.
Small one is max. Big one is min.
Oh, wait, right.
And if you were.
The small one is the minimum.
Now, if you think back to trig, x divided by 6, what's that going to do to your period?
Stretch it.
It's going to stretch it out, right? So cosine is normally, sine is normally goes from 0 to 2 pi.
Yeah.
The period for this is 0 to 12 pi. So really what we've got going on here, this would be 6 pi, and we're only looking at this interval right here from 0 to 2 pi, which is why on this interval there are no relative mins or maxes, because the derivative is never
how's
equal to
it 12 pi? Why is it 12 pi?
Because it's always the period divided by the coefficient of x. So it would be 2 pi divided by 1/6, which would be 12 pi.
Are you going to put that on airline?
Yeah.
Before you shut it off, I have a question.
Shoot.
And you'll be able to hear it. So if you were to have points, like if there were points that were in that interval, then you would just use those and then test the endpoints and then see which one is the lowest.
Right. So
and
I could have a situation like this. It doesn't work for this graph. If I had something like this, then this would be a third point that I'd test. And whichever the highest y value of these 3 points is, that would be the absolute maximum. And whatever the lowest of these 3 points is, that would be the absolute minimum.
So to find the relative extrema, you have to find where that equals 0.
The first derivative is equal to 0.
So the first derivative of that is cosine of x over 6 times 1 over 6. Set that to equal to 0.
Correct.
Then those points. Then wait. So you find when that equals a 0. Then you plug that back into the first derivative, or this. Wait. So once you find the first derivative and set it to equal to 0.
You would have to substitute it into the original function because we're talking about the maximum and minimum of the original function.
Okay.
So that's why I need the y values for the original function.
Okay. So you set first derivative is 0. Find those values. Put them back into the original function. Then you get those two values, and then you judge whether that's a minimum or maximum depending on which one's small, which one's not.
Right.
So the smaller one is the minimum, the bigger one's the maximum.
You got it.
All right.
So then absolute, no, relative. Okay. Because what we did here was find the absolutes, right?
Yes.
The absolute minimax. So relative is just all the points,
I love trig.
right?
Relative would
All
be where
maximum
I
and minimum.
figured it out.
The derivative has to be 0 or undefined
Okay.
to have a relative max or min.
Okay. And then
To
absolute.
have an absolute, either
Right.
either it needs to be a relative min or max because the first derivative is 0
Or it's
undefined,
the endpoint.
or we test the endpoints as
Okay.
well. So.
I think
All
I
right.
did.
I think I'm good.